Yuvan sir, may I have your permission to start now?
Please, please start.
Okay, so I welcome you all for this International Mother Tongue Day talk, and this is going to be very enriching to all of us. So, formally, I would like to request Professor Shabana Hamid, the president of the Masood Hussain Khan Linguistic Society, to initiate the event. Over to you, Shabana. Shabana, can you unmute yourself, please?
Thank you, Professor Varsi. Professor Uday Narayan Singh, former Pro Vice Chancellor, Vishwa Bharati University, and currently Dean, Amity University, Chairman, Department of Linguistics, and President, Linguistic Society of India, Professor Jahangir Varsi, all attendees, colleagues, students, and my dear friends. On behalf of the Department of Linguistics and on my own behalf, I extend a very warm welcome to you all who have joined today on the occasion of the International Mother Language Day, which is a platform to support and promote linguistic and cultural diversity and multilingualism. Dr. Rajendra Prasad, the first president of India, very rightly said, जिस देश को अपनी भाषा और साहित्य के गौरव का अनुभव नहीं है वो उन्नत नहीं हो सकता. Today's program has been organized by the Masood Hussain Khan Linguistic Society, which has been named after the founder chairman of the Department of Linguistics, Professor Masood Hussain Khan, whose far-sightedness resulted in the establishment of an independent Department of Linguistics here at the Aligarh Muslim University. Since its inception in 1968, the department has grown in all spheres of academics and in all branches of the subject. An impressive list of national and international seminars, conferences, workshops, and webinars that have been successfully organized in our department indicate how active and vibrant this department has been throughout. It is so heartening to note that this proactive approach has become almost a trend here. We regularly make serious efforts to bring together scholars and academicians from within the country as well as from across the globe while organizing such events. It is worth mentioning here that the recently held ICOLC 45 in November 2023 was a huge success with participants not only from all corners of the country but also from abroad. The present chairman, like his predecessors, is also leaving no stone unturned to take the department to new heights when it comes to academic activities for the benefit of the students and for intellectual vibrancy. The society functions under the supervision and guidance of the staff and chairman and devote a lot of time to its activities and try to organize lectures, workshops, and other events under its banner. An international conference on applied linguistics was successfully organized by the society a few years ago. Truly speaking, this is a good forum for our students to develop intellectually by interacting with fellow students and their teachers in the department and also expand their academic horizon by closely experiencing the activities during such events. The Masood Hussain Khan Linguistic Society has been instrumental in enhancing the academic fervor of the department by organizing memorial lectures on various topics related to language and linguistics. A number of renowned scholars of national and international repute have enlightened us from time to time by their valuable ideas and thoughts. The list of scholars who have graced the occasion and events organized by the society is very long, but due to paucity of time, I mention only a few. Professor Hans Hawk, Professor Peter Hook, Professor O.N. Kaul, Professor R.B. Dhongre, Professor Khub Chandani, Professor Amrita Abbi, Professor Tariq Rahman, Professor Ajit Mohanty, Professor Tej Kumar Bhatia, Professor Abdul Sattar Dalvi, Professor Achla M. Raina, Professor Shrish Chaudhary, Professor Pradeep Das, Professor Fabio Schetti, and no less renowned and our very own Professor Mirza Khalil Bey. Today, as we celebrate the International Mother Language Day, we are pleased and honored to have amongst us a very accomplished scholar, an academician to the core, a reputed poet and author, Professor Uday Narayan Singh, who will be enlightening us with his views on the topic Why Mother's Tongue. We are looking forward to your deliberation on a very pertinent issue in the present scenario. A mother tongue is not mere language, it's a cradle of legacy expanding across generations, the very essence of our identity, heritage, and a reflection of culture. I welcome you all once again and take your leave with a few lines by Jayatissa K. Liange, a Sri Lankan poet. Mother tongue. Just as much everyone else has an identity unto oneself, being one of 9 billions, I too am called Sinhalese, for my mother tongue Sinhala am proud of. I would now like to request Professor Jahangir Varsi to formally welcome our distinguished speaker today, Professor Uday Narayan Singh. Thank you and welcome once again.
Thank you, Professor Shabana Hamid, for the wonderful introduction. Before before I go to invite and welcome Professor UN Singh sir, like he is an scholar at par excellence, a world-renowned linguist, and he is equally known among the Mathili and Bengali literary circles. Like Bengali people knows that he is Bengali scholar, Mathili people knows he is Mathili scholar. We know him as a great linguist. In the past, like as Professor Sabana Hamid said, like in the past we had invited Professor Noam Chomsky in 2022, and then Professor Stephen Crescent for talk here. Like they have all delivered the talk here in our department, and we are so fortunate to have you. So before I invite you, I would like to say a few words about a person who has trained many generations of linguists, provided opportunity to work in the area of Indian linguistics. So Professor Uday Narayan Singh, a prominent scholar in the field of linguistics, translation, lexicography, and creative writing. He is currently serving as the chair professor and dean of the Faculty of Arts at Amity University, Haryana. Before before joining here at Visvarti, Professor Singh has also served as the director of the Central Institute of Indian Languages, Ministry of Education, and he formally established and led the Center of Applied Linguistics and Translation Studies at University of Hyderabad. And also he occupied many academic roles at prominent universities, including University of Delhi, South Gujarat University, and MS University of Baroda. He also served very actively as a pro vice chancellor of Vis Bharati, a world-renowned institution of academic excellence, and he is also known as an institution builder. As Professor Singh is known as a linguist, he is equally well known in the field of literary circle. Singh is known as a major poet, playwright, essay writer, and editor in Mathili and Bangla. He also writes in English and Hindi. He has written more than 50 books, edited more than 30 books, and translated many publications in the area of language and linguistics. In addition, Professor Singh has authored more than 300 research papers in literary theory, sociology of language, and linguistics. Professor Singh has been extensively engaged in editorial and literary pursuit throughout his career, holding the positions of the chief editor of the prestigious journals like Indian Linguistics, the Mithila Darshan, and many more. He has made substantial contribution to the literary scenes of Mathili and Bengali languages. He has also participated in editing several important and prestigious publications, including he has served as a series editor of 8 books under language and development for Sage India, and also served as the general editor of Longman CIL series of 11 bilingual dictionaries. Professor Singh had a successful career characterized by his participation in major projects, supervisory positions, academic talks, and international commitments. Professor Singh has made significant contributions to a UNESCO project and has been awarded the Linguistic Society of America Fellowship, showcasing his skill in language related fields. Professor Singh's global significance is shown by his numerous overseas tours and activities. He has given lectures in many countries, been part of cultural delegations, serves as an ambassador to represent our country at many occasions, and help in building international relationships. Professor Singh's reputation and competence in academic community are shown by prestigious speeches he has delivered at recognized universities worldwide. Professor Uday Narayan Singh's career demonstrates his commitment to enhancing language research, fostering academic talent, and advocating for cross cultural understanding worldwide. With these few words, the participants, those who are watching, this is the very few things I have spoken. He has a tremendous achievement and he has provided and trained many generations of linguists in India who are serving in many capacities worldwide. And we are so proud of you, sir, and that you have given us time. We are going to listen to you. With these few words, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to speak on a very important occasion of International Mother Language Day. And the topic you are going to speak is why mother's tongue. So, ladies and gentlemen, with these few words, we would like to welcome him for this talk on as Masood Hussain Khan Linguistic Society under the banner of Masood Hussain Khan Linguistic Society, Department of Linguistics at Aligarh Muslim University. So over to you, sir. Over to you for this talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shabana ji, and thank you, Varsi, for a very generous introduction. In fact, I was wondering whether it is about me or about somebody else because it went on and on. So, see, basically, I begin with two lines of poems. Um, Nazish Pratapgadi had written these two lines. हर एक जबान को यारो सलाम करते चलो गिरोह की न है फिरके की न मजहब की. I think this is very important that we understand that every language matters. In fact, in 2007, 2008, I had the occasion to speak at the United Nations General Assembly, where the main theme was languages matter. They do matter. In fact, when Yaksha asked this question to Yudhishthir, what is heavier than earth? Now, earth is a very heavy object. We all know in terms of the might. So the answer that Yudhishthir gave out of the 128 questions that were asked before he was allowed to drink water from the well, as we all know, in Vanaparva, in Mahabharata, this was the most important, very tense moment. And his answer was that mother is heavier than earth. Why is that so? Well, I think it is all because of the language that we inherit from her, the tongue that we inherit from her. And this language that we speak, it is very important that everybody's language prospers. I remember Masood Hussain Khan Sahab, who in a lecture before the Linguistic Society of India conference was discussing this issue of development of mother tongues, development of numerous small languages, dialects, and somebody suggested that we should do something to take them to mainstream. So उनका कहना था कि भाई आप मेन स्ट्रीम को अगर उर्दू में उसका तर्जुमा करें तो आप बोलेंगे कि इनको मझधार में ले जाना है तो मझधार में ले जाके डुबो दोगे क्या. This was a big question he was raising there, that you can't take the smaller languages uh, uh, to the mainstream and drown them. This was a very important thing. As far as the tongue aspect is concerned, jiva or the tongue is very crucial. um, एक बार फिसल गई बात, एक बार मुंह से निकल गया तो मुश्किल है, उसके बाद उसको वापस लेना बहुत मुश्किल है. और वैसे भी if you all know that there is a saying that प्राण जाए पर वचन न जाए, तो वचन is connected with जुबान. And we all know that in case of Hindi, when you say वचन देना, or in case of Urdu, when you say जुबान देना, बात वही है कि you have promised something. So our tongue, mother's tongue, actually is full of promise, full of dream, full of the kind of compassion. And I remember this particularly because my mother would have been 100 year this year. So I just remember that kind of love that she had for languages, because we were born in a family where my mother spoke or came from a particular region in what today is Bangladesh. Uh, it is Mymensingh region, and my father came from a particular region in Bihar, which is known as Mithila, and there too from Sahasra district. Now, my father was also a connoisseur of languages. As many of you know, that he also was a specialist. Apart from teaching Hindi literature and language, he had also done MA in Persian. Was a gold medalist in Persian. He was also done MA in Pali, in which he was also a gold medalist. And he was learning Arabic when he died, actually. When the brain stroke happened, before that, he was every week we had Maulvi Saab coming to our house to teach him Arabic. So, this craze for language learning we have seen in our family. And since this is a family in which we welcomed poet Nagarjun to come and stay in our house, Hazari Prasad Dwivedi ji came and stayed, Mahadevi Verma came. So, we have been actually watching how the great connoisseurs of language, how the great authors in Indian languages, how they worked, how they spoke. And this sneha of language, this love for language, can be easily seen in everybody's writing. And there are so many examples of that. And today, in particular, we remember the protestation of imposition of Urdu on Bangla in Bangladesh. We all know that the ideal situation is no language should be imposed on nobody. So that is the ideal situation. In India, we didn't do that. And therefore, we all grew together. The kind of brotherhood or the kind of sisterhood that exists in India among the languages is something which is very rare. In some other countries, that didn't happen. And if it didn't happen, then there had to be some reaction. And that is the reaction because of which in 1952, so many people died, so many students protested. And we remember today that day as the International Mother Tongue Day, International Mother Language Day. In fact, in Bangla, there's a poem which I would like to read, just few lines, just to tell you how what a feeling is like. On this 21st February is a very, very sentimental day in the history of Bangladesh. And one small poem I just read from Bangla. আগুন ঝরা ফাগুন দিনে মাতৃভাষা আনলো কিনে প্রাণের বিনিময় রক্তস্রোত যায় যে বয়ে রয় ইতিহাস সাক্ষী হয়ে অপার এক বিস্ময়. Now, this is very strange that it's very, uh, usually there have been many, many causes, many, many occasions for people to rise. Some people rose against monarchy, some people rose against a particular kind of governance structure. Some people actually rose in favor of gender equality. Some people rose against a dictatorship. As you know, in the history of the world, in different countries, there have been many, many occasions for people to come into protest, come onto street and protest. And if you look at that, I would say that this is a very unique kind of protestation that happened in former East Pakistan and today's Bangladesh, that they just wanted to speak in their language. They wanted to write poetry in their language. They wanted to sing songs in their language. And apparently, all these were banned during a particular period, unfortunately. And the rulers didn't understand that this ban doesn't work. If you ban somebody to speak uh, in their own language, it doesn't work. After a while, you will have to give up. In fact, there are very interesting comparisons that were made by about the Hopitewa community and the Gaikwadis communities. In his essay called "Two Types of Linguistic Relativity," and in that he said that it is not really the size of the language speakers that will matter. It is the intensity of the feeling towards your own language that is very important. So, in case of Hopitewa and Gaikwadis, he said that one group may be bigger in size but may still lose out eventually in terms of survival, and another group may be very small and yet can fight back the or push back the oblivion, the danger of endangerment, language disappearance, and can survive in some manner. So this is very crucial. It depends on how how you feel about your own thing, your own language. And since all that we think, all that we speak, and all that we do, everything is connected with human language. The sense that we are making is connected with human language. Very beautiful description has been given in Sanskrit about the this language and the making of sense. In the slokas, in the ancient Indian slokas, the sloka that Professor Meenakshi Mukherjee used to quote quite often, and in fact she had named her journal as Vagartha, and she used to say that this whole description of Vagartha viva samprikto Vagarthan pratipatte is very crucial. That why do we speak language? We speak language because we imagine that the love between the Shiva and Parvati is so important and so much. They are in so much in unison, so much together. That togetherness is like the statement that you are making in a language and the meaning that you have. It's very difficult to separate out meaning from the statement, because you can't have only meaning. Of course, as we know, today's visual languages, through visual language also you can express certain things, but the human tongue is very important here. And to speak, and to speak well, and to speak with all compassion is very very important here. There's one Sanskrit line of poem, two lines of poems, which says that it's one of the modern Sanskrit poems, says that He jivve katuka snehe madhuram kim na bhashase. O my tongue, who might wander, might deviate towards speak in a harsh manner, but why don't you speak in a madhur way? Why don't you speak in a nice way? Okay, Madhuram Vada Kalyani. Kalyani is she is addressing the human language. Please speak in a soft manner. Please speak in a nice manner. Loko ayam madhura priya. Because people like to hear beautiful words. I think this is very crucial because when the fight was going on for independence in Bangladesh, the poet Shamsur Rahman wrote two lines. And in these two lines, he was talking about the Varnamala, the alphabet, the Bangla letter. So, and he said he just line that is important for him was Barnomala Amar Dukhini Barnomala. See, the neglected writing system of Bangla, which you can't see on the screen, which you can't see on the top of the shops, which you can't sell in form of books, which you can't read out from. That is what he was actually lamenting in that particular poem. So I think this is very crucial. Let me tell you my story. Let me tell you my own particular journey into language. And as I said, I was born in this family which had a lot of confusion about human language, a lot of confusion about mother tongue. In fact, a lot of people ask me, "What's your mother tongue?" Because my mother's tongue is Bengali and my father's tongue is Maithili, but my mother tongue, very difficult to say. Perhaps my mother tongue is both Bengali and Maithili. So that is the strange thing. That can it happen? Is it possible? Well, I think if you just look at the story or hear the story, you might agree that it is perhaps possible. In this family, as I said, my mother came from originally from Mymensingh district in Bangladesh, but she was born in Bombay and she studied in Agra, Patna, Meerut, and Chandigarh. Obviously, you can imagine that these are not places where you will have Bengali. So these are places where she grew up with Hindi language. So her Hindi was perhaps better than her Bengali because all the friends, everybody around, uh, workplace, school, everywhere Hindi in these different places. So she was basically a student of mathematics. So she wanted to be a mathematician, but she turned out to be a Hindi language and literature student. So when she came to Calcutta, she took admission into Hindi department to study Hindi. That was her story. As far as my father was concerned, came from a remote village in Sahasa district, and uh, mother tongue was of course Maithili. Interestingly, my father's mother, if you say that she was a Maithil and she didn't have any inclination towards Bengali, you're going to be mistaken because my grandmother had no education in Bengali at all. But her most precious books that she read was the Bengali Krittibashi Ramayana and Bengali Kashiram Das Mahabharata. So this is very interesting that my grandmother is the person whom I saw reading very fluently the Bangla original texts and also explaining to me sometimes Vidyapati Maithili into Bangla. So I was wondering what's happening here. So my father spoke Maithili, no doubt about that. But he joined, as a college student, he joined Sanskrit department. So he became a Sanskritist. But even before that, since he was in the village and he was walking to his village schools, on the way there was a place called Shahpur Bazaar because he belonged to a place called Samora. And in Shahpur Bazaar, there lived a tailor who spoke Urdu, who wrote Shero Shairi in Urdu, and who was also a good teacher of Urdu. So my father told my grandfather that I would like to learn Urdu. So he said, "Go ahead, you do whatever you want," because my grandfather was also very interested in language and literature. So my father would go to the Shahpur Bazaar and learn every day, had Urdu lessons in that. So he became an expert in Urdu and Sanskrit, uh, you know, from the teachers, either school teacher or personal teacher. But when he came to, so that was the time when it was 1942 movement, and in 42 movement there was a announcement on his head because he was one of the so-called terrorists for the British Empire, and he was in the violent mode, uh, getting into the protestation movements, Bharat Chodo movement, and there was a shoot at sight order on his head. So many lawyers actually tried to protect him because he was a very bright boy from a remote village. Why should he be actually punished by the British? So they sent him clandestinely to Bhagalpur first, then to Patna, and then finally to Kolkata. And they said, "You do not come out in the daytime at all, or do not be visible in the night time. So you join a newspaper house." So whole night he would spend in a newspaper house called Lokmanya daily newspaper. He will work as a sub-editor in the Lokmanya newspaper. And during the daytime, he would come out and he would actually be a student at the University of Kolkata. So he joined the Department of Hindi as a student of Hindi to study uh, under the Modern Indian Languages Department. So my mother and father both were classmates. They were all uh, learning Hindi. Um, I always hear a story from my mother about the kind of dexterity in language or in mother tongue that my father had. And interestingly, when I am saying all this, and we are talking about Hindi language and literature studies that they had, I'm saying this with all full knowledge that Hindi was not mother tongue to either my mother or to my father, but it became somehow mother tongue to both of them. And it became a language for unison, language for uniting. So that was the bridge, and they got married. And after marriage, my father made a condition with my mother. I will speak to you only in my language, my mother tongue, Maithili. So if you wish to speak to me, please learn Maithili. Now, for many, it is very, perhaps will be very surprising that my mother not only learned Maithili, she is today known as the best scholar of folklore, Maithili folklore. And as you know, we had great scholars like Smriti Kumar Chatterjee and Sukumar Sen, knowing 30 languages, 20 languages those days. They're all absolutely, capable of handling so many languages at the same time. So Sukumar Sen was the supervisor, and my mother joined under him and studied folklore and went into villages to villages in Mithila, talking to women, talking to finding out what ornaments they wear, what is it that they paint on the wall, because Madhubani painting is something which she was very interested in. What is it that they wear? So everything about the culture, Mithila culture, and Maithili folklore she learned, and ultimately came out with a huge 1600-page documentation on Maithili folklore, the biggest documentation on Maithili folklore that one can imagine. So that's it. Now my sister, elder sister, 11-year older than me, who was also a very well-known poet, she passed away long ago, about 25 years ago. Now she was born in village out of my father's first marriage. My father's first marriage, his first wife passed away. So she was a small girl when my father got married to my mother, the Bengali lady. But you, I did not know until I was 18 that she was not my own sister. The relationship between my mother and my sister was such because they were speaking in Mymensingh dialect of Bengali. They would not speak in Maithili, they would not speak in Hindi, but my sister learned that dialect from my mother, and my mother spoke to her in that dialect. So look at the interesting give and take here. In the same family, my mother moving towards Maithili, my elder sister who was a born Maithil moving towards Bangladeshi dialect of Bengali, and they would speak. So I've been hearing that dialect also from my childhood. So what would my father do to me? What language he will use for me? Many father these days would be using Hindi in such situations. No, my father spoke to me in Bengali. Very interesting. Now, my father was one of the greatest editors of Maithili, writers of Maithili. I turned out to be an author in Maithili, but we spoke in Bangla. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to tell you this story to tell you that mother's tongue is important, but all languages are important. No language is inferior to no other language. And in the family, it is a common thing. In many friends, family that I have seen, that father is a Tamilian and mother is a Marathi, and there is both languages happening there. There is no problem. There is very interesting, cohabitation of languages in the family, and this is India, the composite country. It is very important that this country, the kind of message that we need to give to the people of the world, that we are not in competition. In fact, the story of Babel, if you look at this story, what is the story of Babel? You are all aware of the Tower of Babel. This is a Hebrew story. Some people say that Moses was the origin or the original author of the story. Some people contest that. It doesn't matter whether it was Moses or anybody else. And you have also a very famous painting by Bruegel called Tower of Babel. I'm sure anybody who Googles can find out this painting and the story. What is the moral of the story? Moral of the story is that God and human beings were in competition. And this is something which is important. God and human beings were in competition. Gods did not want human beings to speak in one language, be one race, think in one manner, so much so that they become very powerful, more powerful than the gods, and build a tower to reach heaven. So, therefore, they created division among people by sprinkling the seeds of so many languages, and people started speaking in so many languages, they got divided. I think the moral is very wrong moral from whichever way you look at it. It's first of all, we are not in competition. First of all, we must know that we are not in competition. In fact, yesterday we had an interview for French, German, and Spanish. So in the Japanese interview, we had a Japanese mother tongue speaker who appeared. She is an MA in Japanese, and but she lived all her life in India, in Shantiniketan. So we were asking her, tell me a religion, talk about a religion which does not believe in God. There is no God in that religion. She thought for a while and she said, I think it is Buddhism is the right answer. So why Buddhism? He said, Buddha never talks about a God. He talks about being somewhere, being in a state, but he does not say that worship that God. So he neither talks about the formlessness, nor talks about a particular idol. So it's a very interesting thing that he's talking about good life, how to remain, how to live happily, how to live peacefully, how to be friends with everybody else. I think how to be united, because Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, the message that he had spread is a very interesting message that only in united, be remaining united, that you have the power, that you have the satisfaction, that you have the happiness. So that is why they said that that is the kind of moral teaching which one should follow. That's why people talked about Buddhang Sharanam Gacchami. And also, when he meant about Dhammang Sharanam Gacchami, he didn't talk about religion. For him, Dharma or Dhamma was not religion. But Dhamma was, religious, not religious, the ideal way of life. How you should live your life in a very peaceful manner with everybody, making everybody happy. In fact, uh, I always imagine that supposing if we were one country with one flag and one language and one color and one dress and one religion, how boring the whole thing would have been. In fact, it is very interesting. The country to live in is very interesting only because we have so many. Only because we have so many sects, we have so many belief systems, we have so much of creativity, with so many colors and so many stories. Now, in our country, we are a storytelling country. We all know that. We like to tell stories. And for us, as you would notice in any language, suppose you take Japanese, she was talking about Japanese. I was also looking at that. The If you look at children's stories, in our children's stories, the anthropomorphization that happens is very crucial. Our birds speak, because when you look at Panchatantra stories, Vishnu Sharma giving you the narration, the birds speak. Not only birds, our dead corpse also speaks. Somebody who's dead, like Betal, who is hanging in the tree, on who must be on the back of Vikramaditya. And as Vikramaditya is walking by, there's very interesting discussion that Betal is giving the narration of the story, and asking a very tricky question at the end. If you answer the question wrongly, then you are killed. If you answer the question rightly, Betal goes back to the tree. What is the moral of the lesson? And it is not just our country. I'm not talking about glorifying India alone. I said even look at the Arabian Night story. The king would fall asleep. How will you keep the king alive? How will you keep the king awake? The queen will tell the story. There will be story within the story, within the story, within the story. The multiple nesting. So this reminds you of you. Borsi talked about Noam Chomsky's lecture in 2022. It reminds of the multiple nesting theory that generative grammar had talked about. The actually in case of our languages, we are multiply nested, and we do not actually have a sense of copyright as such. Valmiki does not fight with Tulsidas. Valmiki does not say, look, you guy, why did you steal my story of Rama and Sita and Hanuman from Ramayana to create your Ramcharitmanas? That is my story. Valmiki never says that. Valmiki has authored something which again people say that Valmiki has not himself originally thought about. He actually combined and compiled from various kinds of languages, various mythological stories that are available, and he actually brought them together, which is why there are many layers that you see in Ramayana and Mahabharata story. That story that you see inside a story and inside another story, that 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 multiple layering is crucial uh, for our own continuation. That our we have a Mahabharata in South India where Yudhishthir does not become king, where Arjuna becomes the king. How did it happen? How is it possible? One can wonder. We also found out in A.K. Ramanujan's 300 Ramayana, the book that he wrote about, that there are different kinds of uh, uh, stories around the Ramasita story. In fact, in Mithila, in the Maithili folklore, in my mother's work, I found out about 367 poems or songs which talk about the Ramasita marriage. And there are 7 versions of the Ramasita marriage that appear if you follow Maithili folklore. It's very interesting. 7 different versions. And these versions are different from the Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana version, from Tulsi Ramayana version, all the versions. Similarly, A.K. Ramanujan also talks about different Ramayanas, and he gives one example that when Ram is sitting in Ayodhya on the throne, Hanuman is trying to sit near his leg, and Ram is so pleased that he wanted to give a gift to Hanuman, so he opens up his anguriya, he opens up his fingering and gives it to Hanuman. By chance, the fingering drops, and there was a hole near the platform. Through the hole, the fingering goes down below the Patala Lok. Now Hanuman can take any shape. So Hanuman became a small object and it entered into the Patal Lok. As it entered into the Patal Lok, it goes and goes and goes, and finally the all the ladies in the Patala who are supposed to be serving the Yamaraja the food on a platter, they actually suddenly found that on the big plate there's a small, tiny object. What is that? They took a very close look and they found, oh, that is looking like a monkey, looking like a Hanuman. So they thought that maybe this is a good present for us to give a gift to the Yamaraja for him to eat, because something new he can eat today, some new animal he can eat today. So they all presented that Hanuman, small, tiny Hanuman, to Yamaraj. And Yamaraj said, oh my God, what is this? Who are you? He said, I am Hanuman. He said, okay, you are Hanuman, but what are you doing here? He says, I'm looking for my Lord's finger ring because that ring has fallen somewhere. They said, oh, your Lord, who is your Lord? He said, Ramachandra is my Lord. Okay, oh, Ramachandra is your Lord. Fine. So look at the other thali. There's a one huge platter. In that thali, look for your ring and find out. Now Hanuman looks at that thali and finds there are 300 such rings, and it is very difficult for him to find out which one is the ring which he was looking for, because they are all looking alike. Moral of the story is that there are 300 Ramayanas, that there are many kinds of stories that are being talked about in earlier generation. And it is very difficult to actually find out which one are you talking about. So this is something which is very crucial, that in our country, uh, stories travel, like languages travel, like human beings travel, our stories also travel. At any point of time, 15 to 20% of our people, they keep traveling between one space and the other space. And it is not surprising that in many Hindi novels, you will find the postmasters in Allahabad or in a remote corner in Nainital who would be a postmaster speaking Bengali language. You will not be surprised that in a remote corner in Jaipur, where the king would start to go to war and would ask his pujari to perform yagna, and yagna is going to be performed by whom? By a Maithil pujari, Tirhuta Brahmin. Very strange. So actually, I went to Rameshwaram temple, and inside Rameshwaram temple, we were speaking in our language, Maithili, and suddenly the main priest there pulls us. He says, "You're speaking in our language, my language." I said, "What?" Rameshwaram temple has a Maithil priest, so he took us to Garbhagriha, and inside there, he made us sit there where you can't actually enter. Normally, you can't enter there. And he said, "Okay, we will perform the puja for you." Well, look at that language, kind of thing. I go to Nepal, for instance, and I went to Pashupatinath temple, and then I went on a hilltop where it written outside the temple. They have written, non-Nepalis cannot enter into this temple because that is, very Kal Bhairav temple, which is very angry god. I said, all right. So we started. Yogendra Yadav, famous linguist from Nepal, who is also a fellow of Linguistic Society of America, and we started talking in Maithili, and we entered into that temple. As we entered into Nepal, Maithili is also second official language of Nepal. So the Pujari did not stop us. We went inside the temple, and we did our darshan and puja and came back. Language is very interesting. It's a ticket. It's a kind of identity for you. And I think it is very important that this identity issue is something which is very crucial. Uh, Many dialect speakers want to know from their more fortunate brethren, is it a curse to be speaking in dialect? Because many dialect speakers hide their identity, and they say that no, I'm not speaker of Bagheli or Bundeli, I'm not speaker of Hadoti, but I'm speaker of Hindi. Now this is a very dangerous thing, that you quite often try and file your identity, hide your identity, and assume somebody else's identity just to be part of a bigger group. So many dialect speakers have this problem of trying to decide, should we announce our language, mother tongue that we speak, or should we hide the identity for mother tongue and say, no, we are part of a very respectable language. We are Hindi speakers, we are Bengali speakers. We don't speak in a small language. We don't speak Toto. Now, Toto Pada in Toto in North Bengal has only 1,300 speakers. We had one of the projects in Central East of Indian languages, Mysore, where we were working on Bhasha Mandakini. Bhasha Mandakini would document uh, Marathi, Tamil, Kannada, and Bangla cultural space, and whatever other languages and literature that are available in that space. So, as part of that, when we were documenting Bangla, they went to Totopara and they recorded the life and living of those speakers. What a beautiful uh, kind of poetry, how beautiful their songs are. Just 1,300 people fighting back, trying to survive. They are not saying we are speakers of Bangla. So this is very crucial that that you are proud of your mother tongue, you are proud of your mother, and this is very crucial that in today's uh, world, which is facing a great threat of extinction of languages, the prediction is that most of our languages, 90% of our languages, will disappear by 2050. That is something which is very dangerous to think about that world where 90% of our languages disappear. It also means that all the medicinal systems that are there in those smaller languages will go. All the jewelry, instrumentation, interesting innovations, discoveries that are available for people in that language to survive in that weather, that particular space, geographical space will disappear. So there will be complete wipe off of these communities, which is very pathetic, which is very dangerous, and we should do all that we can to be able to make them survive, to help them survive. Problem is that you can't show them how to survive uh, because it is true that market forces are such that the bigger languages will take over, and many of them say that the bigger languages have become the killer languages. Now, I'm not talking about killing a language. I'm not saying that English or Hindi or Urdu will kill a language. No, they don't kill languages. It is the people who make these errors, who make these mistakes, who occupy another country, who occupy another cultural space, geospace, and perpetrate all kind of atrocities. Language does not do anything. Literature doesn't do. Literature and languages are such which only can unite people. So I think that is a lesson which we need to learn today on the International Mother Language Day. That um, what human beings, where human beings have erred, where they have made mistake in trying to occupy the other cultural space, whether it is Chandragupta Maurya, or whether it is Ashoka, or it is anybody else. I think this is important for us to understand that the the Huns who came to India, the Mughals who came to India, the Indian great emperors who dominated other people, other smaller kingdoms, they were all alike. Occupying another cultural space is not a way to grow. The way to grow is what Buddha had shown by speaking, talking about the pious ways of life. Dhamma, dhammang chara. That is, you should behave in a manner which is constitutional, which is as per law, as per ethics. So ethical way of living is the most crucial thing. And all the Ashokan rock edicts that you see, nothing but using different mother tongues, spreading the message of ethics. That is something which is crucial. Lot of time when you hear a particular singing in Rajasthani, sitting in this part of the world where I am living, I hear the kind of music, I hear the kind of thing which is like Lorika in Mithila. Lorik Vijay is a very interesting epic which belongs to the lowest of the lowly in Mithila. Raja Salhes, Lorik Vijay, all these various other kind of epic stories. But I see the reflection of that in happening in Chandayan in Ramayana also. How did they travel? How did this music travel? What happened actually? Why did people from Karnataka, with their Karnataka music and Karnataka, dramatics, Why did they go to Bengal? Why did they go to Mithila? Because in 900 to 1100 AD, it was the Karnataka kingdom. So, not surprising that Vidyapati or Tagore would imbibe a lot of Kannada tune or Tamil tune or no other language tunes into their own system of music, outright, and enrich themselves in their own language and literature. I think that is what is very crucial. So you have Bendre, who's a great Tagore lover, writing like Tagore. I was also privy to getting a gift from Uzbekistan of their national poet who translated Gitanjali at the age of 14 and became their national poet. So I got those two originals translations. It's almost like the original. So it is very surprising that if you look at the whole world, we are actually retelling somebody else's story. And we would love to do that. We'll keep doing that as long as it is possible for us to bind ourselves in a kind of very unwritten, unspoken relationship that is only teaching us how to live life ethically. So, thank you very much for listening to me. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation, and my point of power is mother's tongue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such an enriching talk that you have delivered. It was a learning experience to all of us. It is being attended by large number of people from around the globe. I can say, like I can see Gautam Sen sir also have joined, so he might be from some other places. So many people I can see who have joined, and it was a great. And you have rightly said, sir, about the language that there is no, we can just say no language is inferior. Like every language is important, every mother tongue is important, and truly we are living in real sense in a composite country like India that you have rightly said, with so many examples and having a multilingual family background, you are a true reflection, what we call as a multilingual, multicultural country. Like, you belongs to that tradition, and that's why we can not have a better speaker than you, like you have, and better known in different literary circle as well equally. And so it was very enriching, and I am also like thankful to you for you are so professionally you have ended your talk on a time that I was thinking about, that you mentioned you are have to go to the other faculty meeting, there is some important meeting. And so thank you for taking care of the one message that I can take home is languages and literatures unite people. You have very rightly said. Like this is the things that we have to think about, and things that anybody and everybody should do. What Professor UN sir has said, that an alarming situation would be coming up, that by 2050 that most of the language is going to disappear. What we can do, whatever way it is possible for every one of us to retain the legacy of our forefathers who are speaking in different tongues, and what we proudly say is why mother tongue is important. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much for being here, giving us time, giving your talk. We can now, at the end, may I request Professor Masood Ali Beg, sir, the Secretary Masood Hussain Khan Linguistic Society, to propose a vote of thanks. Over to you,
Good
sir.
morning. Uh, uh, Good morning, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of Masood Hussain Linguistic Society, Department of Linguistics, and on my own behalf, I express my deep gratitude to Professor Uday Narayan Singh for enlightening us on this occasion, as well as for his consistent and constant support and inspiration to the department. Uh, मुझे याद है मैंने 1987 में डीयू में आई अटेंडेड एडवांस इंस्टीट्यूट इन लैंग्वेज प्लानिंग सो यूएन सिंह जी was at the helm of affairs, and we saw him as a fantastic, marvelous teacher, scholar, a very handsome person and very dynamic and all that. तो आज जब मैंने इतने अरसे बाद आपकी गुफ्तगू सुनी तो मेरा जी चाहता है कि इस मौके पर हसरत मोहानी का ये शेर UN सिंह साहब की नज़र करूं। रोशन जमाले यार से है अंजुमन तमाम, रोशन जमाले यार से है अंजुमन तमाम, तहका हुआ है आतिशे गुल से चमन तमाम। I'm uh, uh, friends, we are extremely thankful to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Mohammad Gulrez, for his endless guidance and support. We are highly thankful to Mohammad Imran Sahab, Registrar AMU, for his dynamic support and cooperation in all academic pursuits in the department. Uh, we are thankful to uh, Dean, Faculty of Arts, Professor Arif Nazir, for his cooperation. Thanks are also due to our learned attendees and participants and scholars who graciously joined us on this very occasion. My special thanks are due to our technical and office staff for making meticulous arrangements for this program. We indeed appreciate the active interest shown by our students and research scholars, and especially the undergraduate students. Uh, I am personally grateful to Professor M.J. Varsi, Chairman Department of Linguistics, and Professor Shabana Hamid for their consistent and committed support to the Masood Hussain Linguistic Society. बात मादरी ज़बान की है तो मैं इस गुफ्तगू को, इस इजहार तशक्कुर को गालिब के इस शेर पर ख़त्म करता हूँ। है रंगे लालो गुलो नसरी जुदा जुदा, है रंगे लालो गुलो नसरी जुदा जुदा, हर रंग में बहार का इस बात चाहिए। यानी colors and nuances of flowers may differ, but all manifest oneness and unity in expressing the spirit of spring. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for joining, and thank you, UN sir, once more. Thank you all the participants. And with these words, I can only have a greetings, Happy Mother's Day, Happy Mother Tongue Day to every one of you, and we can celebrate throughout the day. Happy Mother Tongue Day to every one of you. Thank you all. So,
Thank you.
thank you, sir.